Hello and welcome to the DownShift. As in this episode, we are reviewing the 2026 Austrian Grand Prix at the Red Bull Ring. A scorching, drama-soaked, and it's only drama-soaked. We didn't get any rain, not weekend. Headlined by a controversial Russell pole, a Verstappen qualifying crash, and a three-way Mercedes Red Bull fight to the flag. In this episode, we'll be doing our qualifying review, the yellow flag pole saga, the race review where Russell holds off Verstappen and Antonelli, the standings and what this means for the title, and going back to our predictions and an update to the scorecard as it's
lights out.
Drop the clutch.
And let's get racing.
Hello and welcome to the Downshift. Now, before we get started, I have to do some housekeeping and remind myself to remind our listeners that if you are enjoying the podcast, to like and subscribe down below because it's really important that we build the podcast so we can get more content for you as we try and get closer and closer to Formula One. So, but
What? Are we not close enough? We have a Formula One podcast.
What have we been talking
We've
about?
done like 180 episodes. What are you talking about?
Do you need a hug, KT? Is that what it is?
He wants a corporate box with our name
I
on
just
it.
need validation.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
I know, 89
Whatever
episodes.
works.
Still, it's a lot.
Yeah, so our 89th episode, but yeah, obviously, from that perspective is as we go along, the more people we have liking and subscribing, the more opportunities we have to try and get additional content. So, but look, we're here to talk about Austria and the Grand Prix at the Red Bull Ring, which was a heat hazard condition in the Styrian Mountains, where we did see a Mercedes 1-3. But the story everyone is talking about is how Russell got pole and whether the win was deserved.
Yes, it was. Move on.
He got pole because he was fastest.
He
And he
was
did it-
fastest.
And he did a pretty big lift by all accounts coming into that second last turn because he was half a second up on the pole time before that. So he had plenty of time in hand. So even if he lifted more, he still would have got pole position. So yeah, smart work by Russell, I thought.
Yeah, I think it's less to be said about Russell and more to be said that Kimi probably did do enough.
It was
Well,
only
he
a single
thought there
yellow
was.
flag.
Yeah, he thought there was double flags. I think that the real issue and the contentious thing here is that the officials should have had a double yellow wave flag because that's a really fast corner. A car's just slid off into the gravel. If any other car was to do the same thing, it could have been a disastrous accident. So anything like that should have been a double yellow flag instantly. So, I mean, Russell was only driving to the rules and that's what he did. And whether it was sort of in the spirit of competition, maybe, he went pretty quick through that corner and shouldn't have. I don't know. But, he played by the rules and he got it done.
And did we see later on when Sainz was stuck at the side at the end on the pit straight, or not the pit straight, the stop-go line, Max drove past and his engineer said, "We've got double yellows, Max." And he said, "So that means I just go faster?"
Just go flat out. Is that
No,
right?
only kidding.
Yeah.
Have you bit of a dig?
Yeah.
But this is where you look at the seasoned drivers and Russell, Max, they know the rules inside and out. They know where they can push it. They know where they can take advantage. And from this perspective is, I remember, and this is with Anthony Davison on the Skypad, they had George there talking through the lap and he was winding it through with the LED sign. And George said, it was a solid yellow. And he goes, it wasn't diagonal, and diagonal means double yellow. And so that's where the experience comes into play. He knew to lift, and he knew that coming out of that corner, so it was about 100 meters that he'd lifted for. Coming out of that corner, he knew that he could then put the power back down again. And if we look in regards to Antonelli, look at the communication challenges. Yes, he and Bono are getting along really well, but it's understanding each other like you're finishing each other's sentences. Bono came on and said, yellow, yellow. Kimi interpreted that as double yellow, and so therefore he abandoned the lap. And so it's how you read through that and how you understand each other. So it just comes with experience.
Yeah. And Russell put himself in the position where he could afford to lift off and still have a crack at that pole lap because he was that far up. Like that car was just, he had it hooked up in that last run for sure.
So George didn't deserve pole simply because Kimi should have got it.
No, he
No,
deserved it.
I'm saying George deserved pole.
Yeah, that was one dialed-in lap. That car was on rails for that lap.
Yeah.
And even when he went into he knew that car was on for that lap. First corner, he knew it was on.
He was 1.5 tenths up at the start of that lap, and the car was just dialed in. He was having one of those golden laps where you just feel like you're flying. And you watched that replay going through the entire lap. He was just adding tenths through that lap and just felt confident. So absolutely, it was well deserved.
And Kimi was also on a blinder of a lap, so he could well have finished above George if he had kept going, but he bailed. So we know how important qualifying positions are. Obviously, we saw that in the race result, I think, when you can lead the pack and manage your tyres and so on and engine temperatures. So well done to George.
Yeah, so we had George, who qualified P1 a 0.236 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc, followed by Lewis Hamilton, then Kimi Antonelli in fourth place because of the double yellow confusion. Max, who crashed out at turn 9. In regards to that crash, according to the feedback, is that it was that his wing didn't close properly coming through that corner. So it wasn't a driver fault. It was the fact that the car still had too much speed through that corner, and so didn't have the downforce on the back to be able to take the corner properly.
Rare error, rare technical issue from Red Bull.
So with that, we then went into the race, and essentially we had Russell, who led from pole and saw up an early challenge from Lewis Hamilton. And then we did see the late pressure from Max Verstappen. Verstappen did recover from P5 to finish in second. So it's the best result of his season and only 1.6 seconds behind Russell. And with Antonelli completing the podium in third place at a 1.96 seconds behind his teammate. Ferrari did fade in the second half, but we did see some early performance from them. And it was great to see that Oscar Piastri actually then had a really good race for probably the first time this season.
Yeah, solid race.
Probably. Well,
Still
it was a
21
good race.
seconds, 20 or 22 seconds behind the winner. And I know some of that's just getting held up in traffic, throughout the race. You're obviously not out in front, but Oscar definitely seemed to have the better of Lando during the race for sure.
Do we feel like this was a Ferrari strategy error this time?
Yes.
I think so. And based on comments after the race, Lewis was saying that he was frustrated because he said, I told you guys that the deg would be high, and they put him on softs during the race, which I don't think anyone really expected the top teams to do, because the softs would just degrade too quickly. You would get positions. It was obviously quick for a little while, but they just won't last. So I think that was probably an error as well.
Were they the only team that had 3 stops, or compared to others that had 2?
Well, of the top teams, yeah. I think you still have to give credit to Max Verstappen. That Red Bull, the upgrades that they brought to it, that made a significant difference to their weekend. And that car, once it was going, he was chasing George down towards the end there. And I think it'd be very interesting to see if they can continue that through to next weekend. But the upgrades that they bought, Max looked like a much happier camper driving that car.
Yeah, they've always been quick there at their home race too, but he was catching George at the end, and George didn't have much of an answer. So I think 2 or 3 more laps, and it would have been really, really interesting.
Yep, very, very interesting.
And what I thought was really good, that we actually saw some proper racing. I know Schwags, Lockie, and myself, we're watching together, and there's a lot of oohs and ahs and getting all excited as we saw that head-to-head battle between Verstappen and Hamilton, and really fighting through the corners.
Well, to be fair, we were oohing and ahhing very early on when both Cadillacs caught fire. We thought that was quite interesting, that 2 laps in, 3 laps in, both of them caught fire and they had to retire the cars. So clearly a couple of small issues I got to sort out with that one. But yeah, after that, the actual racing was quite good from that. But it was quite disappointing, to be honest, to see that the Cadillacs, both of them, electrical failure or something like that, but both of them came in going, our brakes are on fire, and the extinguishers, big cloud of smoke in the pit lane. You're going, that's not good for lap 3. So.
And they've had some brake issues before as well with overheating brakes. So it's obviously a bit of a gremlin in that car they haven't been able to sort yet. And it was, like Christian said at the start, it was a hot race, and not good for car temps and brake temperatures. Yeah.
But what was also disappointing was to see the coverage for the race. We saw some of those battles where we were seeing what was happening, but it then cut away at the tail end of it. I don't know about you guys. There was some new drone footage that we saw coming around the corners.
It's funny. I didn't mind it. I thought they did a good job with the drones to chase the cars down there. But then
Yeah.
I saw a reel today where there's some woman watching it. She's like,
Yeah, but let's keep the camera horizontal.
throwing up, and I'm like, yeah, it probably was a little bit difficult to watch.
It sort of followed them around a right-hander, and so you lean to the right, and then it went around the left-hander, still leaning to the right. That's when I got really confused.
They need to bring it up a little bit higher, a bit of a bird's eye view.
It was interesting we were saying with the camera work and that on there, the commentators were going, I'm watching this battle. It would have been nice to actually see that and follow through, as in hint, put it back on. No, they just continued on, and the commentators like, oh, well, hopefully we'll see that later on. And you go, they're trying to hint to them, put the feedback on so we can actually see this. That was
Karoom, yeah. Karoom was just going, I'd like to see actually going through that corner.
Yep.
And I think there was an Isaac overtake when they were showing the back of some spectator's head.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice overtake, Isaac.
Great camera work, boys. What on?
And Crofty just not on form this weekend, and just really laggy in regards to the commentary.
I have to say, I've recently been watching the F1 live commentary of the races and qualifying, and I much prefer Coulthard and Jolyon Palmer. I think they do an excellent job. I don't know, maybe a little bit more insightful commentary, I think, from that team at the moment. So, but yeah, I listen.
How do you have to take
Sky.
a shot when the mediums come out then? Like, and you missed that part of the race, though. I think we had about 6 shots.
So, and actually, Lockie, you mentioned, and this for Bernie, I mentioned to you guys last night, I've just found my new favourite sound. For those who are watching all the pre-show and the like, Bernie Collins went in one the ride-alongs for the Red Bull drag car as they were doing burnouts around the track, and she just giggled through the entire stint, and it was just hilarious to watch. She was just overwhelmed by the whole experience.
And I noticed here we've mentioned Alonso's 5-second pit lane speeding penalty.
The speeding for an Aston Martin.
And the commentators were like, wow, that's the first time the Aston Martins have been going faster than they should be.
Well, normally they go full throttle through the pits and don't get a penalty, and this time they must have had a tailwind or something.
Well, Lance did just cruise through there when he was coming back to retire the car.
Yeah, 47 laps and him? Retired. But Alonso actually said that was one of his better performances recently, I think, for the race or quali or something. It might have been the race, but yeah.
He's towing the company line.
He's doing the best he can with the car he's got, but they must be hanging out for this B-spec car to arrive.
And so as we consider Alonso, and we're taking a bit of a byline here, but there's obviously been rumours about Alonso going elsewhere, but do you see Alonso leaving Aston Martin? Do you see him going to another team?
What's keeping him there? I mean, apart from a big pile of cash, but like the guy wants to finish with some good race. He feels like he still wants to drive and have, good driving experience, and I don't feel like he's got it there.
But he's there. He's got a driver's contract, but he's also got a part share in Aston Martin, which is what was also given to Newey to come on board. But Aston also has quite a comprehensive race program, and so if he's going to then move on to WEC or the like, so he can join Heart of Racing and drive the Valhalla through WEC, there's opportunities there, which he's not going to get with the likes of an Alpine potentially.
I know he's getting older now. He's 41, I think.
So old.
He seems to be driving really well, and he's still got a great reputation. But when you've got young guys like Lando, Piastri, Leclerc,
Stroll,
who else we've got? In the top teams already. Would there be space? Would one of those teams even be interested in putting Alonso in a car? I don't know. I just don't see it happening.
No, he might move to Haas or Williams or something like that, but he's not going to end up at Ferrari or Mercedes.
But you're still midfield. Like, what's the point in shifting? Do you know what I mean? I suspect he either wants to be in a team capable of winning, or doesn't matter who he drives for. He might as well drive for Aston if he's got some ownership and some potential to do other race programs with them. So, yeah.
And what would be exciting for him is if he had the opportunity to mentor somebody as well. If you think bringing that experience to be able to guide.
He's been mentoring someone for the past 3 seasons, hasn't he? 4 seasons?
I mean, Stroll's taking it all on board. He's loving it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to go from Clarkson's farm to Fernando's farm, and you'll have Stroll driving a tractor.
He'd still crash that too.
Fernando's funny farm.
There's plenty of memes of the Aston Martin tractor and going around the internet.
So, as we were saying, we did see the race result end with George Russell taking pole, followed closely by Max Verstappen, who was just eating away at the margin, finishing up at 1.6 seconds behind George. Max also got driver of the day, which is not surprising given that this is his home race and you see just the backing of the crowd.
Totally unbiased, I imagine.
Absolutely.
Well,
I mean, you would have thought
unbiased, yeah.
You would have thought on the podium it was actually Max who won the race with the amount of cheers from the crowd.
Geez, that must shit George up the wall. He wins his first race of the season, and they're all cheering for Max.
Second race.
And
he won Australia too, didn't he? Yeah.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, I've forgotten. Yeah.
Well, it was a long time ago, Dan. It's been a while.
Yep. But third place, Kimi Antonelli, and as I was saying, Oscar Piastri in fourth, followed by Lewis Hamilton, Isaac Hadjar, Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, Liam Lawson, and Arvid Lindblad rounded up the top 10. DNFs we did have was Stroll for a energy recovery issue in 47. We had Saints who parked it, as we were saying, on the straight due to an electrical issue, and both Perez and Bottas who were on fire.
Literally. We've got to say those Williams are really a bit of a disappointment for this season.
Williams or Cadillac?
Williams. Cadillac we expected. Cadillac we didn't expect. Cadillac themselves said we're not going to do that well. But Williams have been building and let's break everything and blah, blah, blah for the last, 3 seasons and set of new regs and they can't get out of Q3.
My question is, what happened with Lawson? Wasn't he complaining his car was on fire multiple times as he was driving around during the race?
Early on in the race, yeah.
And there were two radio calls.
Nothing. And then
we couldn't see anything from the broadcast. Yeah.
No.
But what that now means for the standings, if we look at the Drivers' Championship, and I'll pop the chart up here as well, but we've got Kimi Antonelli at 171 points, now only 40 points ahead of his teammate George Russell, who now takes back second place over Lewis Hamilton, with Lewis Hamilton being at 125, so he is 46 points behind the lead. But we've actually got a front of the field, midfield battle between Piastri, Norris and Leclerc, who are only separated by 1 point. So Piastri is sitting at 80 points and both Norris and Leclerc sitting at 79 points. So 91 points behind Kimi Antonelli, and then Max Verstappen in 7th at 73 points.
George has really narrowed that gap to Kimi over the past 3 rounds, hasn't he? It was looking pretty sizable a few rounds ago, but gradually clawing that back.
And that's it. If you just have to be consistent and slowly chip away at the points, as we will talk about our predictions later on.
Is that the sign that someone's been chipping away, or?
Yeah.
1 point at a time.
Literally.
Yeah, literally.
But as we're seeing is, and we're seeing that the cars are getting a lot closer, and with that battle between Piastri, Norris, and Leclerc, that's providing some real interest in front of the field. As we go to the constructors, we've got Mercedes with a clear lead ahead of the field. They're 98 points ahead at 302, followed by Ferrari at 204, McLaren at 159, and then Red Bull at 115. Question for the team here. Would you see this now as the best driver combination on the grids at the moment?
For who? Red Bull? God, no.
No, Mercedes with George and Antonelli would be the best.
I think so.
Well, I think the question is who's the second best? Kimi and George are probably at the top end with a good package like that. I mean, look, to be fair, Isaac's doing well, but Max is still pulling them through the most part.
Isaac was closer at the start of the season to Max, and then I think recently with car developments or something, Max has been able to stretch a little bit more of an advantage over him. But I think if you're talking about in those top 4 teams, who are the most evenly matched drivers, Mercedes, Ferrari, and McLaren are all very evenly matched.
I'd say McLaren. McLaren are equally bad.
Yeah, they got P4 sewn up right now. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, you look at Ferrari. Hamilton's won a race. Leclerc's struggling. Truth be told, isn't he? Really. I know he had a better result this weekend and he finished, but he's struggling. Well, to be fair, early on, Hamilton was struggling over Leclerc. Leclerc was had it over him a few bit early on. But I think Lewis has kind of found his stride now, and he's going to start to chip away at it, and then Leclerc's kind of dropping off. The regular Red Bull, Max and Isaac. I mean, Max is always going to get the most out of that car compared to anyone else, regardless of what you do. And maybe some of these developments now that are going on are going to start to sort of they can't help it. They're going to suit Max. Doesn't matter what, and we saw at the end of the last regs, the car was really dialed in for Max. It's going to go that way again because whether they like it or not, they've got to look after Max over anyone else. So, yeah, but I mean, McLaren, they've not been getting great results, but the two drivers are fairly close, aren't they? So,
well, they're getting the most out of their package, aren't they? Like,
Yeah.
Yep. It's not,
Well,
not
even
as if
they've admitted that
Lando's.
their car is not fast enough.
No, yeah, Lando was very honest with that. Yeah, yep.
We're starting to see some of the cracks actually forming in regards to both sides of the garage for Mercedes. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but at the tail end, as we're at the podium, there's a bit of a split between both George and Kimi. But then also, and what I found was really interesting, Bono almost seemed uninterested as George was being presented with his trophy up on the podium.
I didn't stay for that bit.
How to read it? How do you read that? Like,
often the media outlets love to show the clips of when someone's not smiling, and that's the headline, as opposed to, the 10-minute block of when they're actually, and who knows what was going on in Bono's mind. Maybe he was thinking about something else, or he was disappointed with himself, or got to be careful with making too much about those kind of things.
Yeah, I think they seem to be supporting both drivers pretty equally at the moment. But I mean, you can see in Toto's.
What's his name?
What's his name? Our favourite other driver.
Toto's reactions with Kimi, you can see he's definitely really taking Kimi under his wing as his protege and giving him advice and whatever else. And George doesn't get that because George is more experienced. So that's the thing that shows for me. Now, whether or not there's different favoritism, I don't really know. But I think more and more, especially this season, they must be looking at Kimi and going, wow, this guy could be a future 5 World Championship driver for us. And that where are you going to put your eggs? You've got the older driver and the young one who's coming through and looks like he's going to kick ass for the next 5 years. So
Toto
the problem is if the older driver keeps performing, you still can't throw him out because you got to go, well, we still need to throw support behind him because if he then for the next 2 races, wins the next 2 races, it's game on.
Well, let's hope it's close.
Honestly,
it's fantastic to watch. It was like Rosberg and Hamilton for a couple of years. Like it was war. It was awesome. So yeah, I love watching this sort of stuff.
I'm all for it. Bring it on.
Honestly, how many championships has George Russell got in him? And how many championships has Kimi Antonelli got? Yeah, that's okay. 1 or 2 for George. And Kimi's going to be over time 4 or 5. He'll be that.
He could be the greatest of all time.
He could be. I mean, it's obviously very
if he drives for as long as Alonso has, he'll be driving while we're in the nursing home at this point.
My goodness.
I mean, George
Maybe he should move to Aston Martin.
George is obviously good enough to win. He's a great driver. When he's on song, he's super fast. So he's got the capability of winning, but he just needs to have a teammate that's going to be a couple of tenths slower and support him to get there. And I don't think he's going to get that with Kimi this year or next year and going forward. So maybe at Mercedes, this year might be George's only chance to get a world title.
Well, when Kimi keeps saying, I've got more pace, and the next call to the radio on George is, we need to pick it up a bit, George.
Cheeky bastard, yeah.
This was a bit like the McLarens last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
It was Norris's year, and then, Oscar put the wind up in first half.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Interesting to see what happens in the second half.
As we were discussing last night, Mercedes is definitely getting bang for buck with Kimi Antonelli because Kimi is on a rookie contract. He's actually earning only $2 million a year for the first 3 years, where we've got George, who's on reportedly around $35 million per annum. So return on investment, they're definitely getting more bang for buck out of Kimi Antonelli for this season.
I don't know how rookie contracts work in detail, but I would presume he would still get some nice big bonuses for winning and getting podiums. So,
of course,
let's hope he's earning more than $2 million a year. I think he'll be doing okay
for sure. Yeah,
I reckon Toto will take him out for a nice dinner here and there.
You reckon a reef and beef, Dan? Reef and beef?
Reef and beef, yeah. Some pork knuckle down in Austria. Who knows?
Nothing wrong with that.
Are we still thinking it's a 2-horse race between Kimi and George for the title, or do you think Red Bull and Ferrari can close the gap?
I would turn to our novice of the team, who has put his support behind a certain prancing horse and an Englishman.
Look, there was a bit of emotion in that decision, perhaps, because it sort of felt a bit like this could be Lewis's, coming up to maybe his last few seasons, but then maybe not, because You look at Alonso, he's carried on for a long time, and Lewis gives Lewis another 10 years, doesn't it? Like, based on that. But I don't think Lewis could do what Alonso's doing, just not perform. Lewis needs to be achieving and winning and hunting and racing and driving and all of that sort of business. But he wouldn't be happy in like a low-level team just chipping over the seasons, cashing checks.
He looked mentally just destroyed last year, didn't he? Like he was just struggling with himself, with the car. It must have been a very tough year for him. And like Alonso doesn't voice his emotions like that. He never really has. But Hamilton, I don't think Lewis could put up with more than another year or two of struggle. He'd be looking to do something else.
But does that go to show that dating a Kardashian, is that what it does for you? That it brings you right back up and lifts your spirits high again? Is that what it is? Or
well, some of the internet seems to think so, yeah.
Yeah. But look, I don't. To your point, Happy, I don't think it is just a two-horse race here. Two horses could be battling it out, and we saw this last year. Verstappen missed on the championship by 2 points.
Yeah.
Max could build his way up, and again, we saw the Red Bull performing much better in this race. We saw Ferrari, who also brought one of their 2 engine upgrades to Austria. So there's every possibility we could be seeing a Kimi, George, Lewis and Max battle to the end of the year.
4 races to go, and we'll be doing. I tell you, like they'll all be up mad for it. He could get this. You watch, it'll happen again.
I wouldn't write him. Him off, especially after the performance in Austria. They've definitely unlocked something in that car.
Like I know that he, complains early in practice and all the practice sessions. This is rubbish and oversteer and understeer and brakes and tires and But once he gets into the race and gets it going, he was on song at the end of that race.
The track in Austria is there are slow corners, there are fast aero corners, there's long straights for good aero slipperiness, and that Red Bull performed really well throughout that whole track. Like it looks like a well-rounded, well-balanced car, or at least it did yesterday in the Grand Prix. So Silverstone. He's a bit faster, a bit more flowing, but in a way quite similar to Austria. So I'd expect that Red Bull to be pretty strong at Silverstone.
Seen Max having some concerns about the Red Bull at Silverstone with the energy usage on that car. Apparently he's done some laps in the simulator and he said, we're just going to run out of battery.
Well, he said he started laughing after a lap or two because he said you're out of battery most of the lap. Like it's got lots of long straights, so you can't deploy forever. Yeah.
Well, anyway. Listeners will have to tune in for our next episode, which is the preview of the Silverstone Grand Prix. But before we do that, we get the chance to go back and visit our predictions. So, Happy, no doubt you've got it fired up, ready to go.
Yeah, sure.
And this is Dan's favourite part of the whole thing is when you put the graph on and it has the animation on that. He loved it.
Just give me one second.
So just as we're waiting for that for our listeners. But we're seeing Happy, who retains the lead with 33 points, followed by Lockie at 24. And as I said, about just chipping away, myself sitting behind Lockie at 23 and Schwag sitting there at 18 points. So almost up to the 20s, Stan.
So you had the good weekend this weekend, KT.
4 points.
Yeah.
Highest score.
Points. Yep.
What happened with the extra and the bonus?
How did you rig that?
I picked P1.
Oh, that helps a lot. Yeah. I think that was my worst round so far, actually. I was finished last in that one.
Well, we're okay with that. You can do that a few more times. We don't mind.
Seriously, just replaying that graphic again.
It's my screensaver. I enjoy watching it.
That's all Happy does all day. Play.
Dear.
Play.
Hey, Google. Play the
DownShift leaderboard. Sorry to our listeners, stuff's going to happen on your home devices now.
Yeah, there may be a shake-up next round because I think the British Grand Prix will be an interesting one to try and predict.
Well, wait and see.
So with that, it is a quick turnaround. We have Silverstone, which is coming up next weekend, which is round 9 for July 3 to 5. It is a sprint weekend, so we get to look forward to that. We will also discuss the Max Verstappen exit clause, given that we're coming very close to the summer break. But look, thanks for everyone to be listening to the podcast. Again, as I said, for the socials, make sure you like and subscribe down below so you don't miss an episode. And later on this week, we will have the preview for the British Grand Prix with paddock rumours, track dynamics, and our predictions for who's going to win what hubby likes to describe as the race that is going to be harder to pick
than a broken nose.
Until then, we'll see you all on the next lap.